From the mind of Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov.
So I had a few people ask me to show how I'm setting up the MT-48 for my sound. So what you're hearing right now is the U89 into the MT-48 with no dynamics, no EQ, so very flat. So we're going to fix this in a second. So what you're looking at, of course, is the preamp. And what I want for the gain, first and foremost, what I want for the gain is really kind of hit between minus 18 and minus 12. I really kind of want to just be right in here, right? Really around minus 12. And this gives me the ability, if I want to push it, if my dynamics jump up a lot, right? then I still am hitting between minus 6 and 0. So, but I want to really, for me, this is kind of where I'm aiming for, right about here, right? I could goose it maybe a little bit more, 38, right? So I've got the low cut set at 60. I mean, with the low cut off, right, you're getting more of that woofy low end, more subsonic stuff that you don't need. 60 is a good cut here. You can even go up to 80 if you want, but I like 60. I don't have phase on, right? Pad is off. Cut. That's just really just kind of a mute switch. I think you can get like a foot switch to enable that. It's like a cough switch, you know, a quick mute. So let's go from there to dynamics. This is cool. So hold on. All right, dynamics. So let's turn dynamics on. So this is the default screen. Dynamics is off. So when you turn dynamics on, the compressor is already at 1.0 to 1, which really doesn't do anything at all. So what we want to do is we want to fix that. So first things first, we're going to set this for 2.0 to 1 because we just want a slight kiss on that compressor. And we also, I personally don't want it to trigger at minus 20. Right here you're looking at, right? You're seeing the effects of it. So you're seeing the compression, right? And you're seeing the amount that it is reducing the overall volume. So we don't want that. I will actually want a little bit more natural because we really just want to trim the onset of transients. We just want to tame that. So I like it about 10, between 9 and 10, 9.5 as my threshold. And that way, right, if I hit it a little harder, and especially if I hit it a little harder with the limiter on, I'm going to keep the attack and release, right, the same. I'm going to keep the ratio low here because, again, we want to keep this natural sounding. Turn the limiter on. Just leave it, just leave the stock settings and turn the limiter on. And that way, if you want to go up here, right, you're safe. Now let's do the gate. Now, first and foremost, the threshold is set here at 144. That is way that's way off. So we just keep dragging this, right, until we get about around 60. Okay, we're going to turn the gate on, right? And here where it starts to kind of futz around like that. That's what you want, right? Because we're going to set the release, okay? So now we're going to open up the release a little bit more, okay? All right, now here we're kind of getting here. We got the thing set at about 2 o'clock, right? And really about 2 o'clock is right about there. And so we're still getting tails on it. So let's drop this down below 60. We have 52. Right? Hello? Still getting tails on. So we just dial this back until we don't get tails. And this is going to be dependent upon your microphone, your space. The U89 is not a quiet microphone. Oh, there we go. The other thing I like to do is just kind of open up the attack just a little bit, just a tiny bit. It makes it a little bit more natural. So about 0.5, 0.6-ish, right about there. Right? So that sounds a lot more natural. We could even probably pull this back a little bit more. All right, check. Hello. Are we getting tails? Tails? Okay, it sounds pretty good. Probably tighten that up a little bit more. So overall, really, this is what you want to do. I kind of like it really around minus 60 or ish. Right? There we go. All right, so it's keeping it pretty quiet. All right, so dynamics. Dynamics out, right? You don't hear a tonal difference. The dynamic section is very transparent, but it's doing its job. And now we're going to go to EQ. So EQ is simple. Turn it on. 4 EQ points. Got to start with this low end one right here. So what we want here for this is we're going to turn that to low cut. And I'm just going to push this up to about 70-ish. 71 works. We're going to leave this at 250, and I'll show you why in a minute. Let's pull these up a little bit. Let's start with this one. We're going to pull this up here. Right, we're going to increase this. Actually can't drag it. You have to use the dial here. So we're gonna move that up out of the way. This one here, let's do this one next. We want this one between like 3 and 4. So hold on. Let me just kind of put this really kind of just more of a presence peak lift. So here, why don't we do 3.4? Leave the cue at 10, and then now you're going to hear that presence peak come to life, right? So it doesn't take much, about 3 dB gain or more, depending upon what you want. 3.2 kind of works here. So listen to how much more clear that is. And then we're going to take this one over here, really, and this is going to be our high-end air, and we want it at 11. I want it at 11. Your mileage may vary. So we're going to add just a little bit of air in there, right? A little bit of detail in that. It doesn't take much, a couple of dB, maybe a little bit more, depending upon your sound. And I'm leaving that again at peak, right? I mean, you can go high shelf with it if you want and get a little bit more of a lift going up like that. That could be desirable. You could also just, I wouldn't do that. Keep it at peak, right? So peak or high shelf. Peak, right? There's a different, you can definitely hear the sound if you have headphones on. You can definitely hear the difference between peak and high shelf. So peak kind of gives you a little bit more pop here. And this roll-off isn't going to hurt you. This roll-off may actually help you with sibilance and stuff. Let's try, actually, hold on. If I go to high shelf, right, I can really lift that up a little bit more and get a little bit more in there like that. So that works too. So really that's dependent upon your taste. So we'll leave that in high shelf right now. So that's really it. That's all you're doing. Now, as far as output goes, I'm going very simple with this. So let's go to the menu. Let me show you this. So you go to settings, all right, USB I/O. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at our inputs routed to computer. All right, so this is where you find which channel that you want to use. So since I'm in mic input 1 and I want to record the sound that is coming out of the unit with the effects on it. So the sound that you're hearing right now, I want to record that very same sound. So let me show you something. So the way I have this set up is analog inputs, right? 1 to 4 are direct outputs from your input. So mic line in 1 and 2, and then line inputs 3 and 4. So if I plug in and I set my DAW to record from track 1, what I'm just going to hear is the sound of the mic through the preamp and not any of the effects that happen post-preamp. But I can record the effects that are happening post-preamp if I go into input 13 in my DAW. So it's set up so that 13 is the input to use that will have the effects on it. So that's what I'm recording right now, and that's what you'll hear on the playback on the final video. But so overall, I mean, it's really pretty simple. So, very simple preamp, very, very simple dynamics. I mean, you're really just you're not really changing a lot from what the stock onboard stuff is. You're changing threshold, you're increasing your ratio, leave these the same. Just turn the limiter on right over here. And the gate, you have to finesse a little bit, your release and your threshold. But that's going to be really, again, dependent upon what your space is like and what your microphone is like. Okay, oops. We're not using a sidechain at all, but we can if you are into that kind of thing. But we don't, I'm not using one here. EQ, again, very simple. Using a roll-off, I already have the roll-off on the mic input, on the preamp. But I'm just going to use this just to kind of make sure that I'm not really getting any weird low-end subsonic information into my data stream here. 250 here we're going to leave, and again that's going to help us. That's going to help us, kind of thin out if we need to. If we need to kind of make it a little less girthy in there, right? So that's going to help us with that. And then again, we just want a presence peak lift to give you a little bit more detail. And some of this may, of course, be dependent upon your space and your microphone. And then I have a little airlift here, right? So 4 points, I'm really only using 3 of them. I'm really only using 2 of them. So very simple stuff, and that's it. So I hope that's helpful. And I got to tell you, I mean, this thing is amazing. So if you're using it for voiceover, I want to know what your results are. I want to know what's happening on your end. So let me know, all right? Leave a comment. Until next time, this is Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov, fading to black.